A drunken tourist mocked the Queen's guard, convinced his taunts and antics would get a reaction. But with one subtle move, the Guardsman set off a chain of events that left the tourist humiliated and the crowd roaring with laughter. What happened next turned into a viral moment no one saw coming. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We share the untold stories, secrets, and traditions of the British Guards every day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. It was a typical morning at Buckingham Palace. The Guardsman stood at his post, a picture of royal discipline. His tall bearskin hat sat proudly atop his head, his crimson uniform spotless in the morning sun. He was a fortress of tradition, a reminder that some things in this world still held dignity. Tourists bustled around him, snapping selfies, whispering in awe, and occasionally testing their courage by waving a hand in front of his face. He remained immovable, as always. Then came Gary. Gary didn't walk into the square, he staggered, a half-empty beer can sloshed in one hand and a battered megaphone in the other. His Hawaiian shirt screamed of questionable decisions, its lurid floral print clashing violently with the quiet elegance of the palace. The breeze caught the unbuttoned edges of his shirt as if mocking him. He grinned broadly, a man certain he was about to become the star of his own viral video. "Ladies and gentlemen," he bellowed into the megaphone, his voice distorted and unnecessarily loud. "Watch as I make the Queen's Guard talk." The crowd froze. Smartphones rose in unison like a synchronized modern-day salute. Parents clutched their children closer, equal parts curious and horrified. A few teenagers whispered eagerly, clearly rooting for chaos. Gary stumbled forward, megaphone in hand, until he was face-to-face with the Guardsman. "Hey, mate," he said, pointing the megaphone like an accusatory finger. "Does the Queen let you blink, or are you some kind of royal robot?" The Guardsman didn't blink. He didn't move. His expression remained an unyielding mask of professionalism. But somewhere deep in his mind, a dry voice whispered, "Ah, another hero emboldened by beer." And this one brought props. Gary, oblivious to the silence of his target, took it as a challenge. "What's the matter? Too busy guarding the palace? Don't worry, your secret's safe with me." He turned to the crowd, milking their attention. "Ladies and gents, I bet he cracks before I do." The Guardsman's stoic stance persisted. The crowd's reactions, however, ranged from stifled laughter to murmurs of disapproval. One woman whispered to her friend, "He's embarrassing himself." Another added, "Does he think the Guard's here for his entertainment?" Gary, of course, thought exactly that, and that was where his downfall began. Unperturbed by the Guardsman's silence, Gary leaned into his next act like a performer who believed his audience was spellbound. With a theatrical flair that would have embarrassed a third-rate actor, he crouched low, his face mere inches from the Guardsman's immaculately polished boots. "Come on, blink once if you need help," he barked into the megaphone, his voice reverberating across the square. "Blink twice if you're stuck in this job because you lost a bet." The crowd's laughter erupted in waves. Some chuckled nervously, others guffawed openly. A few people exchanged incredulous looks, silently asking, "Is this guy for real?" Meanwhile, Gary, emboldened by the reaction, sloshed his beer can as he waved the megaphone in the Guardsman's face like a circus conductor. Foam dripped from his hand onto the cobblestones, unnoticed by its owner. "Don't worry, mate," he declared, wobbling on his haunches. "I'll keep your secret safe. We're all friends here." Not far off, a young girl tugged on her father's sleeve. Her voice, pure and unfiltered, cut through the spectacle. "Daddy, why is that man yelling at the nice soldier?" The Guardsman, as stoic as ever, didn't move a muscle. But his inner voice chuckled. "Excellent question, kid. Wish I had the answer." Gary, sensing his imaginary spotlight fading, scrambled to regain attention. He climbed unsteadily onto a nearby bench, the beer can threatening to spill entirely as he balanced precariously. "Okay, people," he boomed through the megaphone, drawing the eyes of passers-by who hadn't already tuned in. "Let's play a game. First one to make the guards smile wins a pint on me." The crowd's reaction fractured. A few cheered, clearly egging him on. A group of teenagers, ever drawn to chaos, shouted crude jokes and brandished hastily scrawled signs with absurd messages, but others stood back, horrified. A middle-aged woman muttered, "What a disgrace," while a tourist beside her shook his head. "Does he think this is a theme park?" Through it all, the guardsman remained still, a monument to British decorum. If he felt the tension, he gave no sign. Inside, though, he mused, "I've seen pigeons with more self-awareness." Just as Gary prepared for his grand finale, a cringe-inducing dance routine that no one had asked for, the guardsman made his first move of the day. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. A simple shift of weight from one leg to the other. Yet, for someone as off-balance as Gary, it was as destabilizing as an earthquake. Mid-dance, Gary froze, his beer-sticky sneakers sliding slightly on the cobblestones. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, waving his arms in an exaggerated attempt to steady himself. The megaphone, precariously gripped in his other hand, slipped free, clattering onto the ground. Its built-in speaker emitted a shrieking feedback loop that pierced the square like an air raid siren. Startled, Gary flinched, and that was his undoing. He teetered for a split second, his Hawaiian shirt flapping like a flag of surrender, before gravity claimed its inevitable victory. With an unceremonious splat, Gary landed backward in the puddle of his own spilled beer. The crowd gasped in unison, a perfect chorus of shock and schadenfreude. Then, as if cued by an invisible director, laughter erupted. Some people laughed politely, others with abandon, and a few even filmed the spectacle while holding back tears of mirth. The guardsman's face remained a picture of discipline, though his inner monologue added dryly, "Gravity. 1 megaphone. 0. Gary, now soaked and reeking of beer, scrambled to his feet. His cheeks burned red, not with embarrassment but with the stubbornness of a man who refused to admit defeat. Wagging a finger at the guardsman, he slurred, "You win this round, mate. But next time," he hiccuped dramatically, "next time, I'll bring 2 megaphones." The guardsman didn't flinch. His gloved hand twitched almost imperceptibly as he adjusted his rifle, a gesture so subtle it could have been missed by anyone not paying attention. Yet it carried a clear, unspoken message. Good luck with that. The crowd's laughter redoubled. Someone in the back shouted, "Take the L, Gary!" Another added, "Maybe leave the dancing to the professionals." Gary, oblivious, gave an exaggerated bow before stumbling out of the square, his dignity left behind in the puddle. And the guardsman. He resumed his vigil, as stoic and majestic as ever, leaving the crowd to marvel at his unshakable composure. Gary's drunken bravado faltered as the crowd began chanting, "Gary! Gary!" Half were mocking, the other half egging him on. Realizing his moment of glory was over, Gary stumbled away, tripping over the very bench he'd used as his stage. As the square returned to normal, a tourist approached the guardsman with a respectful nod. "Thank you for your patience," she said, holding up a quiet thumbs up. The guardsman, as always, gave no response. But as the woman walked away, a single bead of sweat rolled down his temple, a silent testament to the mental effort it had taken to endure Gary's antics. The next day, a viral video titled "Drunken Tourist versus the Guardsman" flooded the internet. It ended with Gary's grand fall and the guardsman's unshakable stillness, captioned, "British guards, 1. Tourists, 0. And there the guardsman stood, a symbol of unflappable dignity, waiting for the next contender brave, or foolish, enough to take the stage. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and let us know in the comments which guard tradition you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next video.